All right, this time we're given a graph with coordinates, or excuse me, with points x and y, right? We're given segment xy graphically, and they're not explicitly giving us the coordinates, but we can definitely find them from the graph. We're trying to find the length xy, so that's the distance from x to y, of course, and then we're trying to find the midpoint of segment xy, right? So one way to do this is by just physically drawing a triangle and figuring out your horizontal and vertical legs, and then using the Pythagorean theorem directly. You could do it that way, and you'll see that the distance formula essentially does that, but we'll just continue with the distance formula just to stay consistent. So I'm going to do part A first, so the distance. So first I'll need to find the coordinates of x and y. So the coordinates of x are -12, -6. In this particular case, right, we have a scale of 3, -3, -6, -9, -12, and so forth. So the coordinates of y are going to be +3, -3. All right, so we'll call these our 2's, and these will be our 1's. And so here we go. So xy, that distance is equal to the square root of the quantity of x2 minus x1 squared plus the quantity of y2 minus y1 squared. So double negatives turn into positives, and we'll end up with 15 squared plus 3 squared. So then we get square root of 225 plus 9, which is equal to the square root of 234. So since they didn't ask to round here, I'm going to simplify this radical. So I'm going to break it down into a factor tree. I could also look for the biggest perfect square that goes into it. So a few different ways you can do it. Since it's even, I can divide by 2. So that turns into 117, 2 multiplied by 117. 117 is not even, of course, but the digits of 117 add up to 9, so I know 9 goes in. So I can do 117 divided by 9, and I'll get 13. All right, so 13 is prime, but 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. So you can also, once you see that 9 goes in, 9 is the biggest perfect square that goes in. So you can do it a couple different ways. But here I see I have a pair of 3s, so 3 can come out. 2 and the 13 are left inside. So it'll be 3 root 2 times 13, and that would be 3 root 26. All right, so that's the exact simplified version, right? If it said to round, we could round to the nearest tenth and just plug the square root of 234 into our calculator. All right, so next let's find the midpoint. All right, so I'm going to use the same coordinates that we had before, but now I'm going to use the midpoint formula. So I'm just going to do x1 plus x2 divided by 2, right? Just find the average of the x's, average of the y's. So just adding them up and dividing by 2. So -12 plus 3 is -9 divided by 2. -6 plus -3 is also -9 over 2. Those can't be simplified. You could put them in decimal form if you wanted to, -4.5, -4.5. So those are coordinates of the midpoint. And since we have the graph here, let's just see visually where that is. So visually we can see -9 halves, so -4.5, like we said. That's between -3 and -6. So it'll be between -3 and -6 on both, right? So right in the middle of each of those tick marks there, or grid lines. And so that's about where it is. That makes sense. All right, let me know if you have any questions about midpoint or distance. Send them my way.